Abuse is the improper usage or treatment of a thing, often to unfairly or improperly gain benefit. Abuse can come in many forms, such as physical or verbal maltreatment, injury, assault, violation, rape, unjust practices, crimes, or other types of aggression. To these descriptions, one can also add the Kantian notion of the wrongness of using another human being as means to an end rather than as ends in themselves. Some sources describe abuse as socially constructed, which means there may be more or less recognition of the suffering of a victim at different times and societies. Abuse of authority, in the form of political corruption, is the use of legislated or otherwise authorized powers by government officials for illegitimate private gain. Misuse of government power for other purposes, such as repression of political opponents and general police brutality, is not considered political corruption. Neither are illegal acts by private persons or corporations not directly involved with a government. An illegal act by an office holder constitutes political corruption only if the act is directly related to their official duties. Abuse of authority is separated from abuse of power in that the act is originally condoned, but is extended beyond that initially conceived and is in not all cases an abuse of discretion as a failure to take into proper consideration the facts and laws relating to a particular matter, an arbitrary or unreasonable departure from precedent and settled judicial custom. Market dominance by companies is regulated by public and private enforcement of competition law, also known as antitrust or anti-monopoly law. In the Catholic Church, an indulgence is a way to reduce punishment for sin, often by prayer, pilgrimage or good works. In the Middle Ages, some church officials demanded money in exchange both for forgiveness of sins and for other rewards, such as future salvation. Abuse of information typically involves a breach of confidence or plagiarism, or extending the confidence of information beyond those authorized. In the financial world, insider trading can also be considered a misuse of internal information that gives an unfair advantage in investment. Abuse of power, in the form of malfeasance in office or official misconduct, is the commission of an unlawful act done in an official capacity, which affects the performance of official duties. Malfeasance in office is often grounds for a for-cause removal of an elected official by statute or recall election. A cause of action in tort arising from one party making a malicious and deliberate misuse or perversion of regularly issued court process not justified by the underlying legal action. Rankism is treating people of a lower rank in an abusive, discriminatory, or exploitative way. Robert W. Fuller claims that rankism includes the abuse of the power inherent in superior rank, with the view that rank-based abuse underlies many other phenomena such as bullying, racism, sexism, and homophobia. Abusive supervision is most commonly studied in the context of the workplace, although can arise in other areas such as in the household and at school. Quote, abusive supervision has been investigated as an antecedent to negative subordinate workplace outcome. Workplace violence has combination of situational and personal factors. The study that was conducted looked at the link between abusive supervision and different workplace events. Academic abuse is a form of workplace bullying which takes places in the institutions of higher education, such as colleges and universities. Academia is highly competitive and has a well-defined hierarchy, with junior staff being particularly vulnerable. Ad hominem abuse usually involves insulting or belittling one's opponent to invalidate his or her argument, but can also involve pointing out factual but ostensible character flaws or actions which are irrelevant to the opponent's argument. Adult abuse refers to the abuse of vulnerable adults. Alcohol use disorder, as described in the DSM-IV, is a psychiatric diagnosis describing the recurring use of alcoholic beverages despite its negative consequences. Alcohol use disorder is sometimes referred to by the less specific term alcoholism. There are two types of people with alcohol use disorder: those who have antisocial and pleasure-seeking tendencies, and those who are anxiety-ridden people who are able to go without drinking for long periods of time but are unable to control themselves once they start. Binge drinking is another form of alcohol use disorder. Frequent binge drinking or getting severely drunk more than twice is classed as alcohol misuse. According to research done through international surveys, the heaviest drinkers happen to be the United Kingdom's adolescent generation. Animal abuse is the infliction of suffering or harm upon animals, other than humans, for purposes other than self-defense. More narrowly, it can be harm for specific gain, such as